Hello everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live in our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. Hopefully we'll have some people join us live, but either way, this is a super important video that I'm doing today. I actually had some people who requested this topic privately because it needs to be spoken about. So as we're waiting for people to join, let me just go over a few logistics. First of all, I have 4 pages of notes because there's so much to go over, and I can guarantee you I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot. So sorry about that. That's just how it's going to be. And so I'm going to look at my notes right now, actually. Excuse me. So let me just give you a little bit of basic info first, and then we'll jump into our topic. So we are going to be speaking about spiritual predators infiltrating spiritual communities in this video today, and I'm going to be talking about common tactics that they use, patterns to watch out for, how they work in plain sight, and how they get support from the community, what happens to the victims of these abuses, and tangible actions that you can do to help heal this issue. So before we go into the first part of our topic, let me just give you a little bit of information about who I am and why am I even speaking about this topic. So my name is Maya Zahira, and I am a spiritual teacher currently residing outside of the Kansas City area. By the way, this issue, in my observation, this issue with the sexual predators is happening globally, not just here in my community, not just in the United States, not just in my region, but worldwide. It's happening everywhere. So wherever you happen to live, this applies to you. Okay. So once again, I am a spiritual teacher. I've been working in this field for many, many years. 25 years, actually. So in my work, I have had I've been in the position where people have come and spoken to me privately. They've connected with me for counseling after they've gone through really horrible situations. So I have a lot of knowledge about this. Pardon me. So we are going to dive right in just a second. We have more people joining. So as you join, please, as usual, tell us where you're joining from, since even though I know you, you all might not know each other. If you would like more information about the work that I do, then please visit my website, and that's www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. I actually don't specialize in helping victims of sexual abuse in the spiritual community. I am just a spiritual teacher, and I have observed these things, and I've had to assist in my community with it. What I do, what my specialty is I help people who are experiencing unwanted paranormal activity. They're having spiritual experiences that are unusual, or they're having issues with being very sensitive. They're an empath that's picking up on everything. And one of the ways that I became more aware of this sexual abuse issue was as a psychic and as a clairvoyant myself, I was actually seeing how some of these predators were working intentionally, most of them intentionally, some of them unintentionally, were working with spiritual energy, connecting energy cords to their victims and sending manipulating energy. And it's really creepy. Okay. I actually do. I'm not on here trying to sell my book, you guys. I am here because this information is really important. But I do want you to know, in case you want to know about the energetics of how sexual predators work, because I'm not getting into that, I'm getting into other aspects in this video. So if you want to know about how they use energy cords to manipulate people to get into these weird scenarios with them, then you need to get this, my book, Darkness Disguised as Light by me, Maya Zahira, and it's on Amazon.com. Okay, so I think it's, I don't remember what chapter. I was going to look up the chapter. I'm guessing, well, it's near the beginning. It's maybe chapter 4. Actually, give me a second while you all are joining. Yep, chapter 3. Well, chapter 3 and chapter 4, I talk a lot about sexual predators in the spiritual community, and I also talk about how the energetics work. So if you want to know more about that, then go there. And it was really mind-blowing when I was shown this information. And I have had personal encounters as well with sexual predators in my spiritual community. So I've had personal experience and professional. So in that regard, I know all about this. And so this information that I'm covering today is based on patterns that I've seen again and again with various scenarios. So these are not just based on like one experience that I had or something and then I just make up a story. This is based on many, many, many stories. By the way, I'm not going to be sharing anyone's personal stories. So if you've ever shared, if you're watching this and you've ever shared anything with me, that is not going to be shared here. Everything is always kept confidential. I might bring up some of my own stories as well as some community observations, some observations that I've made about my community and that sort of thing, but no personal stories. So just, you can rest easy with that. So we've got a few people who are here. Jeannie is joining us from Piper, Kansas. Hello, Jeannie. Jennifer from Overland Park and Jessica from Springfield, Missouri. So yeah, so whoever's here is whoever gets here. But I am hoping that we have a nice big group. This is a super important topic, and you better believe that I'm going to be posting it all over, you know, Facebook and sending this to people. It really does need to get out there. So again, before I get into our topics for today, I do have a lot more videos on my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. So if you feel like you need more, then go there. And then also I have 2 Facebook groups. One of them is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. It's a Facebook group, not a page. There's a page too. But the group is interactive. It's a support group for people who are feeling challenged with energetic sensitivity. Okay. And then the other group is Spiritual Empowerment Community, and that is a very uplifting group. It's all about living your best life. So again, those 2 groups are not really support groups for the sexual predator issue, but if you like my vibe and you want to stay connected, those are some ways that you can do that. Okay, so again, I apologize that I am going to be looking at my notes a lot. You guys, I have 4 pages of notes just like this. Okay, there's so much. Excuse me. So I do apologize if I speak too quickly or if I'm looking at my notes a lot. If you don't catch everything, then just go back and rewind, and it'll be fine. And also, if you have any questions, those of you who are here live, if you have any questions, please jump in and ask. And but I do want to make a request, you guys. I know if any of you have experienced these things, you might be feeling called to share your story right here in the Facebook Live. I want you to feel heard. It's really important. But I do want to just say in today's video, since I'm going to be posting it outside of our private Facebook group, maybe you might want to share your story in the Facebook group if you're really wanting to share it, because you know, I don't want to be reading your private story if it's being watched publicly, if it's being posted publicly on YouTube. So that makes sense. So share anything that you don't mind being out there in the public, but just keep that in mind. So again, it's important to be heard. And just know that our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group is private, and anyone who wants to join it, who's not a member, can see the members, but they can't see what's posted in the group unless you're a member of the group, unless I let you in. So just know that it is a private group, so you can share anything in there, and random people in the public can't see it. Okay? Excuse me. It's a beautiful day out here on the Kansas prairie, but it has gotten a little bit chilly, so pardon my coughing. It's weird, it's mid-May and it's chilly. I had to put my jacket on. Okay, you guys, so we're speaking about sexual predators and how they target spiritual communities. Let's see where we're going to start here. Okay, first, I want to define what I mean by sexual predators in the spiritual communities. I'm not talking about the official sexual predator list, where someone is on a list and they can't live within X distance from a school. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm speaking about a certain phenomenon that occurs in spiritual communities. It actually happens everywhere, but it happens in regular churches. It happens in any kind of group setting. But here I'm speaking about spiritual communities. So like metaphysical, new age, alternative spirituality. And also I've been saying spiritual communities, but also the holistic health community. Like all of that, there's a lot of crossover. So there's a lot of people who maybe are practitioners who do spiritual work, but they're also a massage therapist, for example. So it's like holistic health / spiritual. Okay. So there are people who will intentionally get involved in these communities, spiritual / holistic health. They will intentionally get involved in these communities because they know that there are lots of easy targets. And their goal is, their goal is, as a sexual predator, their goal is to find people that they can manipulate into sexual relationships. Now, in the situation where a person is a, quote, healer or spiritual teacher or guru or minister or what have you, they are in a leadership position. So whether they're a healer, massage therapist, etc., they are in a leadership position. They are in a power position where they have more power over their client, student, follower, etc. So there's an uneven power. You're not equals, okay? So this person is in authority over you. Even if they're a massage therapist, you don't think of them as being their authority, your authority figure, but they are in a position of authority. You are going to them for help, and they are supposed to be helping you. And so in that uneven power position, they then purposely, intentionally take advantage of their power position and will manipulate their client, student, follower, etc. into a sexual relationship. So that's what I mean by sexual predator or sexual predators, sexual predation in spiritual communities. Whoa, that was that is a huge mosquito. Holy cow, it's like this big. I hope it doesn't land on me. Okay, so that's what I mean. And also, let me be really clear that I am not against sex. I think sex is a healthy thing. Let me make sure my neighbors are not out with their kids. Just if I need to filter what I say. So I do believe that sex is a healthy thing. I am not coming from a position of being a prude or anything like that. I'm extremely open-minded. I'm totally open-minded about different lifestyle practices that people might have. You know, there's monogamy, there's polyamory, there's multiple partners, there's like all that stuff. I'm not speaking about what I am into or not into or whatever. That's not what this video is about. But I will just say that I'm extremely open-minded about what people do in their sexual life. And it's also important to understand that even people who are ministers, spiritual teachers, massage therapists, healers, acupuncturists, at Reiki healers, etc., etc., etc. All of those people have sexual lives as well. That's a healthy thing. The problem is when the person is engaging in sexual relationships with their client, with their follower, with their student. Okay? So there can be gray areas. And let me just give you a couple of examples of some gray areas, and then I will also point out that in this video, I'm not referring to gray areas. I'm talking about really obvious abuse, okay? So a gray area might be, I'll give you a couple of examples from myself. So if anybody is out there who knows about these two things, like I have these two things in my like closet or whatever. And so if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, but blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm just going to come out and say what they are so that we just put it out there. Okay. So, so there was somebody that I was buddies with, like totally platonic, good buds for 3 years. We were friends. We hung out at a spiritual center. We did stuff together, just the two of us. We did stuff together as a group, and like totally platonic. Nothing ever happened between us, romantically or anything at all like that. And then after he went through his divorce, I don't remember how long it was after his divorce. I really don't remember. But after that, I thought that I might want to date him. And so we dated. So we had a conversation. We talked about it. And then a week later, we started dating. We dated, I think it was like less than 2 weeks, because I realized that there was some really weird stuff going on, that he was engaging in some really dishonest practices, we'll just say that. And I actually talk about him in my book. Again, I don't ever identify anyone. But the reason why I bring this story up as an example of what can be considered a gray area is that we quote dated, right? We were seeing each other, and during the time that we were friends, we were good friends, like really good friends for 3 years. During that time, every once in a while, he would drop into one of my classes. And I'm trying to think. And there, near the end, I remember that he showed up to a couple Reiki classes as well. So our foundation was friendship. We were already buddies. We hung out together all the time, and then we had a relationship. Now the opposite of that would be that someone who is a healer goes to a energy healing circle, an energy share, and they're like, I wonder if there's any like people that I could target. And then they see somebody who's like really struggling emotionally, and they focus on them, and they do energy healing on them, and they give them their business card, and they get them to come to their office, and then they manipulate them to get into a sexual relationship from that professional encounter. And I can't even tell you how many stories I've heard about that. Um, so back to my own story. I'm just laughing because I'm like, I've seen how much these things hurt clients and students, etc., that I will admit I've become like really hyper about self-checking, about checking myself, and like I am like super clear about like my male students, they're students only. But I actually, to tell you the truth, I don't really even like the fact that I had this buddy, this person that I was friends with, and maybe I just beat myself up too much about that. But integrity and ethics are super important to me. So anyway, so that's one of my stories. Now, when somebody is an energy healer, excuse me, or a spiritual teacher, or etc., it's really, really important for them to be checking themselves and making sure that they're not crossing those boundaries. What gets into the gray area is when you're friends with someone and then they say, hey, I want to come to your class. That gets kind of tricky. And if you have a mentor that you work with, if you are a spiritual teacher, healer, etc., and you have a mentor that you work with, and if you have any of those tricky situations, you can always contact your mentor and see if they can help you with that. It's really, really important to be making every attempt to be, really of the utmost integrity. That I, excuse me, I think I mentioned that I was going to tell two stories. So the other one is that there was a client that came to me several years ago for one session. And then after that, we actually ran into each other at a couple of social things. I don't know what to call them. And then he asked me to go out and do something with him. And so we actually went for a walk out in nature. And when we were on the walk, I said, hey, I want you to know that my professional boundaries are really important. And, you came to me originally as a client, and I don't date clients. So if this is a date, or if I don't know what this is, but we need to be really clear about that. We actually, I don't even know if we ever officially had a date, and nothing really ever came of it, if you know what I mean. But because we had gotten together on a personal level, we had gone on that walk, and he kissed me goodnight. That was the thing. A couple years later, so I didn't see him for, I don't know, I kind of fell out of my life. And then a couple years later, he contacted me and asked if he could have an energy clearing session. And I responded and I said, hey, I'm so glad to, I'm so happy to hear from you. I hope you're doing really, really well. And I cannot do an energy clearing session for you because we had some romantic involvement, even though it was very minor. Remember what I said, that I can't mix the two. So, and I had no further interest in him. Okay. But because there had been like even just that little bit that actually didn't even go anywhere, I said, no, let me refer you to someone else. That one incident, okay, I feel uncomfortable even with that one incident. And in hindsight, I feel good that I set that boundary with him, but I feel uncomfortable that like just things unfolded as they did originally. And when I thought back, I thought, I wish that I had had a really good mentor. One of my main mentors at the time, I'm not going to mince words here, had really horrible boundaries when it came to personal and professional. And so when I was encountered with that one scenario with this gentleman that I'm speaking of, Um, it was actually confusing to me. I was attempting to set boundaries, like I said when we went on that walk. Like, I attempted to set the boundary. He actually laughed at me, and I hadn't had these experiences yet with supporting people who'd been abused by practitioners. So, like, I had never had very good leadership in that. And the only thing that I was going on was my own natural level of integrity, which I always had. Um, so, one of the reasons why I'm getting into this topic is for the benefit of spiritual teachers, healers, etc., practitioners, so that you understand how important it is that there are so many practitioners. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but there are so many practitioners that are not being careful, that they're just like doing whatever, and it becomes extremely harmful for the people on the receiving end. Okay, and I'm not trying to be judgmental. Once I get into explaining this more, I think it will make sense. So I'm going over this for the benefit of people in the holistic and spiritual fields. I wish that I had had a mentor who laid all of this out so that I could look back and feel like every single encounter was like totally clean and clear. But the two that I have that feel a little bit muddy to me are those two that I mentioned. And I feel like they've been resolved appropriately now at this point. But wouldn't it be great to have a great mentor from the beginning? And part of the thing that I've observed is that there are lineages of spiritual teachers where the spiritual teacher has inappropriate sexual relations with their student. And then that student goes on to become a spiritual teacher who then has sex with their students, and it goes on and on and on. And like, I'm here to help educate, okay, so that this will hopefully reduce. I'm also doing this video to benefit people who've been victims of this kind of abuse, so that you know that you are not alone. And the kind of abuse that I'm talking about, I will get more into detail as we go. And I'm also doing this video for the benefit of spiritual holistic communities as a whole, so that you all can understand more about what this type of intentional sexual predation looks like. Okay, so I was having a conversation with someone recently who had been the victim of abuse, and she said that, you know, these kinds of things are the intentional sexual predation in spiritual communities is going to continue until the communities as a whole take actions to stop it. And I'm going to at the end, I'm going to circle back around, and I'm going to give some really tangible suggestions as to what you can do in your community, what you can do, just little old you, what you can do to avoid these circumstances, and what you can do to help stop it. Okay, so let's see here. So why am I talking about this? This like intentional sexual predatory behaviors in spiritual communities. As a spiritual counselor, I've had many people privately share heartbreaking stories with me. And I'm also sharing this information, because I have found that being direct does not work. So if there's a sexual predation issue going on, let's give an example here. I think my camera is getting really fuzzy. What is happening? Hang on, you guys. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully that will help. So I found that being direct does not work. So when there's a situation going on where there's an older gentleman who is a spiritual teacher, and he likes to draw in young women to mentor, and then he then grooms them, gains their trust, and then manipulates them into having sexual relationships. You know, then when you go and try to say something directly to the guy or to the people around him, it doesn't work. And I will explain why it doesn't work. So a different approach is needed. That's why I'm taking a more educational approach. Just as on a side note, my personal and professional philosophy is that I do not go around calling people out. So I just want you to know that about me. I don't go around the community finger pointing, going, sexual predator, blah, blah, blah. You're one and you're one. No, that is not happening. Okay. First of all, even if these people are predators, being direct like that does not work at all. So my approach is education, helping people understand what actually is happening and what to do about it. Okay? All right, so this video is all about education. Knowledge is power. You'll be able to identify red flags and avoid getting sucked in yourself. You know, there are people who are really smart and really have great common sense who have ended up getting sucked into a sexual predator relationship with their healer, spiritual teacher, etc., because they just didn't know the red flags. Okay, so if that is you, do not beat yourself up. These people are extremely manipulative. They are master manipulators. So if you've been the victim of one of these situations, do not beat yourself up. Okay, give yourself some credit. They're just very convincing. Okay, I forgot to mention this before. I had it earlier in my notes. Or no, actually, I'll mention it in just a second. Next on my list of why I'm doing this video, this is a community issue. And that's why I'm putting it on a video, so that people can share this. This is a global issue. This is not just local. So it needs to be worked on locally in your community, whoever you are. But this is happening globally. Okay, so everyone, everywhere needs to be aware of these things. As long as communities enable and allow these behaviors, it will continue. So not only do we need to be self-aware, I was very vulnerable and shared my stories, my 2 stories, and how important it is to self-check and keep yourself clean and clear if you are a practitioner. It's very, very important to be self-aware and be thinking about your integrity and about your professional boundaries. You know, whether you have good mentoring in your lineage or not, it's very important that you be educated and knowledgeable, so that you as an individual can help, can make a positive impact on your community and not be part of the problem. And it's also important that as a member of the community as a whole, that you and your other community members take some of the actions that I'm going to recommend. Okay, so hey everybody's been really quiet. So if you have any questions or thoughts as we go, feel free to jump in. Okay, this video is also for the victims of any types of sexual predation within spiritual and holistic communities. This is to help you know that you are not alone. So, and also to help you understand a little bit more about what happened. And I don't know if you guys are noticing this. I think it's the lighting, but it is very interesting that it looks like the video is kind of fuzzy. So That is interesting. That has never happened. So that just could be some weird energetic interference. I hope it turns out okay for you guys, but at least you're able to hear my voice. If you are a victim, then watching this video, listening to this video will hopefully help you understand. Okay, good, Jeannie. Maybe it's just my screen. Maybe my screen has fingerprints all over it. Who knows? So for victims, this will hopefully help you understand a little bit more about what happened to you. I also think it would be helpful for, well, everybody, but for victims of this kind of abuse, to read my book, Darkness Disguised as Light, especially chapter 3 and 4, where I'm talking about the situation with sexual predator and how they attach energy cords. And it really helps people to understand how much they were being manipulated on an energetic level to get sucked into the sexual encounter. Okay. And by the way, if you're not already clear on this, if you are a holistic practitioner, it is never okay to use your spiritual knowledge to energetically / spiritually manipulate a client or a student into having sex with you. Like, that's a no-brainer, okay? If you fit into the category where you're engaging in that, you probably didn't stay on this video. You probably left. I probably left a long time ago because you don't want to hear me talking about the hard truths. So now let's go on to common tactics that sexual predators and spiritual communities use. I was going to point this out a minute ago, and then I was going to save it till now. I want to be 100% clear that both men and women and all genders, any people can be sexual predators. So I might sometimes use the pronoun he, because the majority of the situations that I have assisted with have been where the healer, teacher, etc., mentor, spiritual mentor was a man and the victims were women. But I personally know women who are in positions of spiritual teaching who are having sex with their students, and then the students come to me because they are very confused about what the hell happened to them. Because again, it is not an even balance of power. Okay, so anyway, it can happen. It's not just men that do this, so I'm definitely not male bashing here. That is not what this is about. This happens all across the board, male, female, and any other genders, all of the above, all human beings. There are people who've done this kind of crap. Okay. Jennifer, you are welcome. This is long overdue, actually. And I actually was in a helping role in my community. I can't remember, was it like maybe 5 years ago? And after that, I kind of went underground because I kind of went into my little cave because and I'm going to talk about community issues here in a minute, but when people, in my experience in the past and my observation as well, has been that speaking up, in the leadership role that I'm in, speaking up can be dangerous because predators love to take people like me down. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, it's long overdue. It's much needed. I can't even tell you how frequently people reach out to me, even though that this particular thing isn't like my main, like it's not my specialty. It's not what I advertise on my website, but I think people know that when they have been targeted by a predator, I think they know that with the kind of work that I do, that they can reach out to me. So you can reach out to me. Okay, common tactics that these predators use. Let me look at my notes here. Okay, so kind of going in order of what happens first and what happens second, etc. So the first tactic is that they choose their victim. They often will intentionally choose aspects of spiritual communities, holistic communities. They do that very intentionally because they are looking for groups of people who are trusting, open-hearted, and maybe don't have the best boundaries. Because let's face it, one of the problems in alternative spirituality / New Age right now is a lack of boundaries, and this whole like we are all one. And so I personally, when I in the past have tried to set healthy boundaries, I personally have been shamed, like just for having boundaries, like just for setting a boundary. And I've observed that happen to a lot of people. So it's very common for people to not only not have boundaries, but to be shamed if they try to set boundaries. So boundaries are very discouraged in a lot of spiritual communities. Not all, but a lot of times that's true. So it's like the perfect hunting ground for the predator to be able to go and find victims. Oftentimes, at, like I mentioned, like energy healing circles, that's a really common place where predators will look for victims. People who are going to a community event like that, they might be feeling really vulnerable. They're feeling like they need assistance. Maybe they're struggling emotionally. They're wanting to get help, and so they're going to naturally trust somebody who they meet there at a place like that, because why would you not trust? You're going to an energy healing circle or a Reiki circle or a chanting circle or something like that, and why would you not trust? Like, it just sounds like a wonderful, beautiful, blissful kind of event. Why would you not trust, right? So they will go to these events and they will choose their victims. Jeannie says, you are a trustworthy person. Thank you, Jeannie. I really appreciate that. Cars driving by here. Jeannie is one of my, I hope it's okay for me to say this just so people have context. Jeannie has known me for a few years, and she's been a client as well. So that's the context of where she's saying that. So thank you for saying that, Jeannie. Lily says, sound healing circles. I've had it happen at one. Yes, sound healing circles. That's included in the list for sure. Ooh, I'm getting chilly, you guys. I'm getting cold, you guys. Lily says, sorry I'm late. Thought it was at 7 p.m. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's see where we're at. So the first step is that they choose their victim, or they will go to a place where they know there's easy targets, and then they will choose their victim. They'll look around and they'll be like, oh, that person looks really vulnerable, and they have like radar for that. They can sniff it out. Okay, I need to pull my sleeves down because I'm cold, you guys. I get cold really easily. I should have worn my coat. I knew it. All I have is this shirt. Then after they've chosen their target, they will make contact. They will be all friendly, and they'll be like ultra spiritual and everything. And then the next step is that they will work on grooming. Grooming is what they do to butter the person up. They work on gaining the person's trust. They will also, this is really common in the spiritual context, they will tell the person how special they are, I've never seen anyone who has such amazing energy like you. I've never seen anyone who has the spiritual gifts that you do. You are just so beautiful, so amazing, blah, blah, blah. They will boost the victim's ego. And then sometimes their tactic will be to boost it and then later to tear it down. It depends on their approach. They will do what they can to make you more vulnerable. So Lily just mentioned sound healing circles, sound healing events. So that's one of the things that they will do. They will use energetic techniques to open up your energy to make you more vulnerable. So whether that's using sound healing, whether that's them doing shamanic or energy healing techniques on you, or just maybe it's like deep emotional work that they're doing with you, where they have you just like totally vulnerable, and then they go in for the kill. Now, usually they will not go from step A to step Z like immediately. Often they will take their time. So there's a long grooming process and a long process of working on breaking you down and making you more vulnerable. And then during that time, they will begin, here's the third step, they will begin to test boundaries. So they'll do like a little minor boundary violation and then see how you respond. And because in spiritual and holistic communities we're taught to not have boundaries, then when the little boundary violation happens, and we're taught to be nice and loving all the time. So when the small boundary violation happens, as spiritual seekers, we're often like, well, they probably didn't mean anything, but well, I really trust him or her, and it seemed, this person is so wonderful and so amazing spiritually, like it's probably okay. So they do this minor boundary violation, and then a little, a day or a week later, there's the next level of boundary violation. So the first boundary violation might be that they are touching you, maybe not necessarily directly on your privates, but maybe like on your back, or they're touching you maybe in a sensual way, or maybe what happened to me one time, I went to a massage therapist and he spent like almost the entire massage, or it wasn't the entire massage, but too much time was spent on my thighs, not just my thighs, but my upper inner thighs. Okay. And I'm going to share that story in just a minute because I did set a boundary with him. So I did set a boundary, but imagine if I didn't, then the next time he would push the boundary to the next level. Does that make sense? Okay. Lily says, yes, the boosting the self-esteem and then tearing it down, frown face. It is a horrible tactic to control vulnerable people. And Jeannie says, oh my. And Lily says, ugh, yep. So, step 4 in their tactics. Actually, let me go back to testing the boundaries. I talked about the massage therapist. There's another one where like the guru who might hug you for too long. And you're like, well, it seemed okay. I'm not sure. And it's just this minor boundary violation, and then you let that happen, and then the next thing happens, and the next thing happens. So they keep pushing. And if you have any other thoughts about any other boundary testing, boundary pushing, then please share so we can brainstorm that a little bit. Lily says, I've been to that massage therapist or one like him. I feel a sneeze coming on, you guys, because I'm getting cold. I don't know if you've been to that one, but I've actually been to more than one who started pulling that crap. So I think it's kind of the common MO for people who are in massage therapy who are acting as sexual predators. And I think you all know, I'm not saying that all spiritual teachers or that all massage therapists are sexual predators. If you want the names of some male massage therapists who are awesome and super high integrity, if you're a woman who wants to go to a male massage therapist in my area, let me know. I will message you. I know some that are amazing that I really feel great about. So, again, it's not just men, but I know that's been an issue. There's been too many male massage therapists who are having those issues. Actually, I think of two right off the top of my head, two male massage therapists that are wonderful, wonderful human beings who I would recommend to anyone on the planet. So I haven't been to a lot of guy massage therapists, but I can think of two who are awesome. But I've been to, you know, more than two who were trying to pull that funny business. So that's not good. Jeannie says, I had a similar experience with a male massage therapist. Yeah, my other time was I was on vacation 10 years ago in Florida, and I went for a massage because I was trying to pamper myself. And I think that it was a full service massage therapist. It was in a hair salon, you know, like I figured it was safe. And they asked me, hey, do you mind if you have a male or a female massage therapist? And I'm like, I was like, I don't care. You know, whoever's free, you know, whoever's available. And yeah, I think it was like a happy endings massage. Like it was, I don't know. I think that's what he did, what he was trying to do. And like, I didn't let him, but it was the whole like inner thigh, like creepy, so creepy. Okay. Jeannie says, obviously I never went back to him. Yeah. I complained to the hair salon person, and then she was yelling at him after, like when I was walking out the door. It was like, well, I'm glad I said something, but that was super weird. And you think that, like, just when you assume that you're in a safe environment, like a hair salon, a massage at a hair salon, like you would think that would be a safe environment. It was not. It was, so don't ever assume. Okay, so after they test boundaries, their fourth tactic is if you set boundaries, if you decide to set boundaries, then their next tactic is to shame you for setting boundaries. Okay? And or his community, or his or her community, he'll get his community to shame you as well. Now, I'll give an example. We were talking about massage therapists, and this happened to me because, again, I'm sharing my stories, but never anyone else's stories of abuse. So, about 10 years ago, I went to a massage therapist in Kansas City, and, you know, I thought everything was going fine until at one point I was on my back, and he was doing this passive stretching thing. I don't know if you all know what passive stretching is, but it's where they stretch you. Like, you're not stretching yourself. You're not doing your own yoga pose, but they will stretch you. So they'll like open your leg up to like open your hip, right? So he did that, okay, which is normally fine because normally, and I've had both male and female massage therapists do this technique. I know what it is. It's a hip opener. It's a really good technique. And usually what they will do is they will like wrap your leg with the sheet so that even once your leg is open, everything is fully covered. It's like you're wearing a diaper kind of thing. Like a diaper it's like a diaper wrap with the sheet. Okay. So I noticed that he didn't do that. And when he opened my leg out to the side to stretch my hip, I felt cold air on my hoo-ha, you guys. Like, there was nothing covering it, okay? And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? So I peek my eyes open, and he was looking right at my crotch, at my naked crotch, okay, you guys? And now, this story is a really good example of what happens to people when something is happening right then. I should have like yelled at him, jumped off the table right then. But sometimes when something like that happens, you're so shocked that you freeze. And this is someone who is, who was at the time very highly regarded. My friends all recommended him, Everybody was always oohing and eyeing about how amazing he was. And here this thing happens. But there had also been some complaints about this person as well. Okay. But I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? So I'm laying there with my eyes closed, and I'm like, it was like the most tense massage I've ever had. And then I'm like waiting for it to be done. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Because I'm thinking, like, you know, none of my spiritual friends, like all these spiritual teachers in the community that are my colleagues, recommend him and like think that he's amazing, right? And I'm like thinking, if I say something, if I were to like jump off the table and yell at him, like, is he gonna lie about me? What's he gonna what? I didn't know what to do. So I'm just like shaking and freaking out. And so the massage finishes,